discussing CSUF's recent decision to allow optional credit, no credit grading for students.
Followed by national protests over stay-at-home orders.
And finally, we're committed to bringing you the news, views, and info to go on this episode of the Report Roundtable Discussion. I'm Bree Eastlick.
I'm Jefferson Denham.
And I'm Ryan Matthey. And as you can see, we're continuing to practice social distancing and are going to conduct our episodes via Zoom for the foreseeable future. Although we are not able to be together in person, we do invite you to continue to be a part of the discussion. Follow us on Twitter at the Report CSUF or on our Titan TV Instagram at Titan TV CSUF to keep in touch with us and view our content. We're going to start today's show off with some changes happening to the Cal State University Fullerton. We have a lot of information coming out as this past Wednesday, CSUF President Fran Vergy announced that CSUF is implementing an optional credit, no credit grading modification for spring 2020 courses. This was followed by a virtual town hall on Monday where Provost Dr. Pamela Oliver revealed plans for a virtual beginning to the fall 2020 semester. And might I say, this does not apply to me in the slightest. I am graduating this semester. However, I see how this might be very frustrating, both of these scenarios for students who are going to be continuing their studies into the fall. If you want to start talking about the credit, no credit grading, that for me personally, I think that was the best move that the university could make in the times and the situation that they were placed in. If you did watch that virtual hall, which is posted on the Titan TV CSUF page on YouTube, they were talking a lot about how the coronavirus has impacted the university and how quickly it impacted the university. It wasn't like they had a bunch of time to plan for this. They didn't have a lot of time to plan that transition to go virtual and all these centers on campuses to go dark and to have to go virtual. So this credit, no credit option, I think really is the best option for students if they are in the situation that they're in. Some questions that I have been seeing on Twitter and just in the surrounding communities about this is people are scared. What is it going to do for my GPA? How is this going to affect me personally? And actually, Cal State Fullerton does have a website. If you go to coronavirus.fullerton.edu, they have a full website where they do answer some frequently asked questions. And from this FAQ that I read, it said that the credit, no credit option does not affect your GPA. Basically how it works is you are going to be presented with your grade at the end of the semester. Once that's presented to you, you're going to have about 10 days to go onto Titanium and decide whether or not you would like to keep that letter grade or you want to transition to the credit, no credit option. I don't think that is really an issue for a lot of people. What do you guys think about this? I know, Brianna, you're continuing after this semester, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a senior this next semester in the fall. Already signed up for my classes and everything, right? But what I really like about the credit, no credit option is that you can only do it if you really need it. Like, here's what I think. If you get a C and it's going to affect your GPA, then just switch it to credit instead of actually the letter grade. So that's what I like about it. You don't have to do your all of your classes. You can only do like a particular one or two of them. Keep the good grades and then switch out the other grades. I don't see a problem in that. What I really want to talk about, though, is how we are talking about possibly starting online in the fall. That is going to affect so many people, myself included, because as you guys know, I'm up in Sacramento. I'm not really close to the school. I'm a good 6.5 hours away. I can't just move down and be like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to go down this weekend and move into my apartment. I can't do that without having to set up a whole bunch of things. You have one of three options. I can move down in August no matter what and start school. Whenever, the school opens back up, I can pay for the apartment, eat the money that I'm spending on it and not actually move down there. Or I can just wait until the school says, okay, we're going to be starting in 2 weeks, in person, and then scramble in those 2 weeks to find somewhere. Because a lot of apartment complexes, they don't want to just wait for you to say, oh, well, I can move in now. So I'm not the only person that has to go through this. There's so many out-of-state people that live too far away to commute. So I think that if the school decides to do that, they have to give us a lot of time in advance to know.
Bree, I love that perspective. It's something I hadn't quite thought of yet. Like if you were to come down mid-year, you'd have to find a place. Let's say the fall was all online and then the spring semester wasn't. And you bring up an interesting point too, like if everything goes online, which I kind of am in favor of. I like the fact that President Vergy, if you recall, and all of Cal State Fullerton, they were very proactive before there was any cases reported. They shut down the campus because they foresaw that this could potentially be horrible. What I think might be beneficial is us to discuss diminishing the fees or not charging so much, because a lot of the things that are available to us are the extracurriculars, right? And so if it's all going to be online, which I'm all for, if we need to be, that's fine. And I think that they should make that call sooner than later, not only for students like you, Bree, who have to worry about housing, but for the professors too. If we set that up now, it's probably a good idea. And because we just don't know.
And so at least what they mentioned in this town hall is that they have the plans to do it, and it can change anytime, depending what the CDC says. They said specifically they're listening to the CDC and taking all of their recommendations. And so they've made this decision listening to the professionals, and they'll make any further decisions going forward by listening to the professionals.
And I just love that. I feel like I'm so, enamored with our leadership, because they're keeping us informed, and they're sending out the right leadership communication for the student body to know what's going on. So we've just been talking about what's happening more locally and how we can be working together collectively. Now let's take a look at some people who decidedly do not seem to want to do that. Coast to coast, some Americans are gathering to protest against their state's stay-at-home orders. California saw gatherings of protesters in San Diego, Huntington Beach, and Newport Beach, while the protests in Michigan, sponsored by conservative groups such as the Michigan Freedom Fund, with ties to Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, drew roughly 3,000 people statewide. These protests, both here in California and around the country, come as the nationwide death toll currently reaches over 40,000 people. Now, look, in my estimation, here's the deal. The White House has issued guidelines to the states regarding when to reopen the country. The White House own guidelines say that we shouldn't lift stay-at-home guidelines until it's been demonstrated that the numbers are coming down. That would mean we need more tests available, which we don't get. And so why has the president decided to go on a Twitter rampage saying to liberate this state and that state? I'll tell you what, I read a great newspaper article about this that suggested he's doing it because he ran his campaign in 2016 as an insurgent, railing against the government. However, he's railing this time against his own administration's recommendations. But we have freedom of expression, freedom of assembly in this country, but to what extent? Because it's like we've all heard, you don't yell fire in a crowded theater, okay? Freedom of expression, yes, but only to the point where it might harm other people. And then all of a sudden, no, we have a little more give and take. And we all know that in 1918, in that horrible flu epidemic, they removed restrictions a little too soon, and there was a horrible second spike.
What I will say is I understand why these people are upset. This is unprecedented times, and it totally left field for everybody. Like, I understand the anger and I understand the pain. But what I also understand, which I think is what they're lacking to understand, is that these actions are going to cause that second wave. Like you were talking about earlier, Jeff, we are going to have to continue all of these restrictions and repression efforts if we're not adhering to the rules that are being put out right now. It's not like they're just putting these rules out because they want us all to, be homebodies. It's because they have a serious idea in mind, and the idea is to get us back out into the real world in as little time as possible. And they can't do that if people are going to be purposely going out and disobeying those orders.
I think it's kind of upsetting because especially we have people in the hospitals that are dying by themselves. They don't get to be with their family because of the stay-at-home orders. They don't want to be affected, and people are worried about opening things back up right now. But I actually have an update from my mom, who, if anyone hasn't watched our show before, is a nurse in Placer County, which is right next to Sacramento County. And she said that as of right now, we have 3 cases in Placer County, and the state of California and the governor and different hospitals are talking, and they're actually in hope to slowly reopen the medical offices, and so hopefully in a few weeks. And they've already started opening golf courses, tennis courses, and dog parks. So, we're slowly getting there, but it is possible that this could happen all over again, in a few coming months. She says right now that it's doubling, which means it is getting the same amount of cases within, 13 days as of right now. That's where the double is right now, 13 days. So she says that as right now it is slowing down, but it is possible that it will come back. But as of right now, they are slowly reopening a few different things, but in the coming weeks, we'll have to see if that'll continue or if it'll have to close things down again. But I kind of want to talk about something else a little more happier now. So how about we move on? If you look out your window during this lockdown, you may see some new neighbors wandering around. Animals across the globe are taking advantage of the lack of humans outside during this quarantine and are taking over. Take a look at what reporter Ian Lee has to say about these wild animals.
New life for the world's most endangered sea turtle. Leatherback hatchlings are returning to Thailand's empty beaches, the largest spawn in nearly 20 years, all thanks to the coronavirus lockdown. Around the globe, Mother Nature is reclaiming her space. In Lebanon, hundreds of millions of birds migrate through every year. But now there's something different. This farmer says we are seeing species of small birds for the first time. I don't know what's happening in nature, but it's a good thing. In Kenya, a lion relaxes on a bench in the Masai Mara Reserve. A pack of pachyderms clog a road in southern India, while there's a new king of the urban jungle in Adelaide, Australia. And in northern Italy, this hungry fellow was looking for the bare necessities. But not all appreciate the new neighbors.
During the corona crisis now, it's becoming more and more terrifying because animals, as you know, carrying disease.
In Haifa, Israel, wild boars got quite boorish exploring abandoned spaces. But for now, while the humans are away, the animals will stay. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Now, one of the animals that Lee was talking about at the beginning of his story was the sea turtles. And one thing that I read on People was that the sea turtles apparently are really coming out more also, but their hatching is between March 1st and October 1st. So we're in the middle of that right now. And what they were saying when they were talking to professionals about it was that sea turtles are actually making more of a comeback because with no people on the beaches and a lot of debris that aren't there anymore, these sea turtles are making it to the ocean more. So we're getting a lot more of them, which is a great thing. But I think that although a few people are scared about what's going on, possibly bringing in diseases and other things and these animals being out and possibly affecting what's going on. But at the same time, I think that we need to learn, how to live with them because who knows, it's possible that they can go away once people start coming out again. Who knows? Or they might even stay. So it's in the end, we're just going to have to see what happens once everything is over and it goes back to normal. But I think that this could be a great thing for us. We can learn from them. We can live with them. And we need to really protect them, though.
I would suggest that we intentionally look to create a new normal with an emphasis on green, sustainable technologies with the Earth's long-term health in mind. And this would mean sustainable habits and habitats for wildlife as well as humans. With this downtime, we get to reevaluate what our priorities can be. And I came across this very cool, if you'll indulge me, I came across this very cool quote by Wendell Berry, who is a poet. And he says this: "We've lived by the assumption that what was good for us would be good for the world. And this has been based on the even flimsier assumption that we could know with any certainty what was good even for us. And that requires that we make the effort to know the world and to learn what is good for it."
We, from our quarantine, are able to see pictures through the internet or through social media of jellyfish going into Italy, and we have the beaches in Hawaii are having all these animals come back, and there's actually you can see the air improvements from space. If you go to Europe, they have a dramatic increase or decrease of these carbon emissions, and actually analysts at Goldman Sachs are saying that they expect energy related carbon emissions to fall by at least 5.4% just this year alone, which does not sound like a huge amount, but when you have these energy related carbon emissions, which are accounting for about 2/3 of the total greenhouse gas emissions on the planet, that's a big deal. And that's something, like you said, Jeff, and I think Bree, you alluded to as well, is like, this is a time to do a new normal. And this is a time for us to kind of progress. This could be the all-time high for carbon emissions. Like, we could have peaked already if we, in this state, in right now, after we start these reopening processes, treat the earth a little bit differently how we were treating it before. And like you said, Jeff, we have for the longest time thought what works for us is going to work for the world. And that's not the case. And I think these animals coming out, that's just what they're trying to do. They're trying to show you that this is the human world, that the humans have kind of conquered, but there are all these other habitats and environments and ecosystems that need to be protected as well. I don't think we need to go as far as saying, we need to coexist with these animals and we need to, live along the birds and the hogs and whatever animals are coming out of your forest. But I think we do definitely need to treat it a little bit differently than we were treating it beforehand.
I definitely think that this could possibly push us in the right direction, and I really hope it does. But you know what, guys? That's all the time we have for today on the Report Roundtable Discussion. How about we have a safe week and stay tuned for more news, views, and info. I'm Bree Slick.
I'm Jefferson Denham.
And I'm Ryan Matthew. And as always, Fullerton, stay fresh and stay at home.